I'm back again. I'm going to take you back to Saigon in the 1960s. At that time I was assistant manager flying, and I had several programs I was in charge of. And one of them was the C-46 program. Now our C-46s were Chinese registry. There was no American registry on it. So we had Curtiss Electric four-bladed steel propellers on it, which had been outlawed in the United States because they had a bad habit of running away and of course killing a lot of people. So they converted the C-46 to the three-bladed Hamilton Standard hydromatic propellers in the United States. We didn't. We had Chinese registry, and we had the Curtiss Electric props, and we had great maintenance. And that's what that Curtiss Electric propeller required, was constant maintenance on the thing. But this day I was flying rice out of Saigon. I'd commanded a flight. I just wanted to go out and play with the airplane. I had a Vietnamese loadmaster on board and a Chinese co-pilot, H.L. Loon. And we were flying rice out of Saigon up to the Central Highlands at DaLat. DaLat had a nice big paved runway there. Now the runway in the town of DaLat was too short, which was up in the hills. And that area also produced perhaps the finest teas in the world, and also does a good job with coffee. Vietnamese coffee from that area today is very valuable, and it's an Arabica bean. But this day it was rice in, and on the way back out pretty much empty except for maybe some vegetables from the farms there. Third trip, taxied on out, lined her up on the runway, poured the power to her, and looking forward to a trip back and a night out on the town. But as the tail started to come up, the left engine let go. The propeller went to 3,500 RPM, which was way overspeeded. And it also was like a flat plate on the left side of the airplane trying to take me off the runway. Chopped the power immediately and used heavy braking to stop it and keep it on the runway. Taxied back up to the ramp, and I knew what had happened. The left propeller governor had failed, and she went to full low pitch. As I shut down, I noticed in the doorway into the cockpit, the Vietnamese loadmaster was down crouched sitting on the floor, gripping for all he was worth, because he thought he'd met his doom. But we shut down, and I got on the radio and asked for help. That we were shut down there, we needed maintenance or a ride back to Saigon. Because this airport in the Central Highlands was not secure at night. And none of that area was secure. The local Viet Cong would be going around collecting what they call taxes from the residents, or if they hadn't found a round eye there, you'd be a prisoner of war and be a great prize for them. But as we waited for the rescue to come, we heard an airplane fly over, and it was at Twin Beach out of Saigon. Climbed back into the airplane and got on the radio and yelled at him, but he didn't pay any attention. He continued on past us. Got back on the radio and the HF radio, and found out from Saigon they had no more aircraft to send our way for our rescue, and to see what we could do about hiding out for the night. Well, got down out of the airplane, and there was an old Chinese fella there with his bicycle, and he was talking to my co-pilot. Well, I planned to go ahead and hide out in a hangar nearby overnight. Now, my Chinese co-pilot, if he shucked his uniform, he wouldn't be conspicuous and be able to get out. And the Vietnamese loadmaster, for sure, he could blend in with the locals. But the Chinese guy on a bicycle insisted that we come to his house and be his guest for the night. Well, this sounded like a great idea, but I told HL to just tell him, the problems that he might have if the Viet Cong found us in his house. And he says, no worry, I pull the blinds and you'll be safe. Well, I thought this was great, and went over to his house, which was not too far away. And he had a nice 2-story frame home, and he'd been a businessman in Hong Kong before retiring to DaLat, which was a nice garden area and beautiful spot to spend his last days. And we went in there, and he pulled all the curtains and took a bath, and he called us down for supper. But when I got down there, he was busy scraping out the last atoms of instant coffee out of a jar of Nescafe. And he put a little hot water in it and sluiced it around so that I had a proper cup of coffee, which I guess he thought Americans needed badly. Well, this was wonderful and great honor, actually. And then he came out with the bowls of rice and some stew, which you put over the bowl of rice that you had in front of you. And it was really good. Nice beef for what I thought the meat was in the stew. And the rice was sticky rice, which I enjoy. And H.L. Lung, my co-pilot, gave me a funny look when I complimented him on his stew. Well, I didn't pay any attention to that, but the next morning the crows, as the chicken started to crow, got up and I could hear the sound of an airplane coming our way. And it was another Twin Beach with some mechanics to take care of the propeller problem we had, change out the governor. And as we got ready to leave, I went downstairs to thank him profusely for his hospitality. But he was in the backyard, and I could hear the yelp of a dog in pain. And I saw him straddling a dog that he just cut its throat. And hanging from the tree limb nearby was a carcass of another dog that had already been skinned. And I asked him, "What's this for?" He says, "Your stew." So I knew what the meat was in the stew from the prior night. And I complimented him on the stew. Well, he took this to heart. As we went out to the airport and watched the mechanics change the governor, he came back out on his bicycle with a brown paper, butcher paper locked, wrapped up, and he gave it to me. And co-pilot looked at me and he says, "You know what that is?" I says, "Yes, dog." He says, "I take it if you don't like." I says, "No, just don't tell my Oksan wife what this is, and she will like it too." Well, when I got back to Saigon, I went down to the PX and bought a case of Nescafe instant coffee and sent it back up to him. Well, there became an exchange of coffee and dog meat for several months. I never did tell the home fires what this meat was. My maid, I think, knew what it was, but didn't say anything either. And finally it stopped. Now what happened to him, whether he died, went back to Hong Kong, or what his fate was, I never found out. But it was an interesting cultural exchange there, and I appreciated him more than just saving our lives. Thank you.